the jail population of Rikers has increased since Eric Adams has come into office by more than 1,000 additional incarcerated New Yorkers. And what is quite staggering to me is that we know that we can reduce that jail population to less than 4,000. I mean, Vital City had an article about a number of different proposals that could reduce it to 3,700. And some of this also just has to look at the average stay on Rikers in the 90s was 50 days. Now it's more than 100. There are more than 1,500 people on Rikers who have been held there for more than a year. So I do think many of the reforms that have to be made are also reforms around the court system and ensuring that people are actually having speedy.
He's lived a life that is one of the most privileged lives I have ever heard of any American ever. I mean, the guy has not held a job, and he's going to be the mayor of New York at the age of 33 after being a failed rapper. I'm a more successful rapper, for God's sake, than Zohran Mamdani was.
You had one record, Ben.
I know. And let me tell you, it was a banger. Now, Nicki
We're going to talk about Zohran Mamdani and his socialist promise, right? Open socialist mayor, right? We hearing news that Cuomo, not Andrew Cuomo. Yeah, Andrew Cuomo has a good chance of winning if Eric Adams and the Republican in the race drops out. And one of the reasons why I think, this champagne socialism that Zohran Mamdani is kind of shilling out is that it doesn't do anything. How are you going to improve New Yorkers' lives? Because New Yorkers are what? Badly managed by a Democrat. You're just another Democrat, and you're going to promise them more stuff where they're already operating at a deficit. And the rich people that you need to stay in New York, you're demonizing them, saying that, hey, the whitest and richest people in our country, they need to pay more, right? You demanding more out of them. After your party, Zohran Mamdani, mismanages their funds for decades. Y'all been ruling New York with an iron fist, and you want more money. How greedy do you look? I already talked about it. I don't need to rehash this argument again. We all know the top income earners in the country pays the most taxes. They contribute a large percentage of the tax revenue in any district, in any city, and in the country. So if you tell me, like, let's say I'm part of a tax bracket, they pay 46% of the taxes, and everyone else, the bottom half, the bottom 50 of Americans only contribute about 10% of the tax revenue. And you're saying we need more money out of you. And I see that, oh, we're in a budget deficit. Trains are not safe, right? People get, people hopping tickets. I'm not safe, right? People in the Bronx are not safe. And we ask you, what you going to do about public health, Zohran Mamdani? We're going to work with community organizers. We're going to take guns off the streets. And it goes to Ben's point in the beginning that this man has never held a job before, right? He is not proven in any endeavor he has successfully gone under. And he is arrogant enough to think, oh yeah, just make my first real job mayor of New York, where my decisions will have massive consequences across the district, across the city, and have some political influence on my party. Yeah, this is going to be a great first job. Shit, you have to work your way up to get higher positions of authority and responsibility, but this man, he just walks into it. And this is why a lot of young white progressives from upper middle class to wealthy families voted for this guy. And no one from low income, middle class workers voted for this guy. Majority of people who voted for them are these snooty, snobby, elitist kids from these privileged backgrounds because they relate to him. The feeling of white guilt or family guilt. Oh, I came from a two-parent household who are well off. This guilt, and then pretend to do something for the working class. But this is not what we need. We don't need someone selling us dreams and fantasy. We need pragmatic solutions. And I'm going to circle back to the crime debate, because Don Lemon did a street interview in Brooklyn, New York, and I think it's very fitting that I talk about this. And you're going to see Zohran Mamdani kind of give his case about public safety and what things he would try to implement. And as much as people may not like what Donald Trump is doing, Donald Trump has a solution to something. You may not like the way he goes about it. You may not like the style of that solution, but the Democrats are not offering anything better than what Donald Trump is offering. And many people are even coming around to what Donald Trump is offering. Let's take a look.
How are you?
Hello.
Where do you live?
I live here
You do?
in the Bronx.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you feel safe?
Yes.
You do?
A little bit.
Do you think we need the National Guard on the streets here?
What?
National Guard on the streets to help with crime.
Maybe more.
You think National
Yeah.
Guard or just more police?
More police.
What about armed military?
I think it's good. If we are going to be safe,
Then you're all for it.
yes.
All right.
With the increase in shootings in Brooklyn and in the Bronx, people are now focusing on public safety. So I'm wondering, what would your public safety plan look like? Explain it to our viewers.
Absolutely. You know, prior to the West Indian Day Parade, I visited Little Caribbean, and I spoke to a number of residents in East Flatbush who were sharing their concerns around gun violence. And I met a number of New Yorkers who were part of the crisis management system, part of a cure violence approach to dealing with gun violence. And they told me how important it is to have a comprehensive approach to reducing gun violence and, frankly, rooting it out of the entirety of our city. And that it would take working with the police, working with the crisis management system, working with a cure violence approach, all of these things to deliver that safety. And then I went to the Bronx just a few days ago, and I met with a program called Guns Down, Life Up. And this is a program based in Lincoln Hospital. And one of the young men I met, he had actually been attacked and was in Lincoln Hospital, and he was thinking about retaliating. And that's when he learned about this program. They recruited him to join the program. And instead of another act of violence, he's instead now a mentor to others who have just gone through that same process.
And I know I hear the comments already. Kenny, we know you don't like socialists. We know you don't like socialism. Your main point here on this channel, Kenny, has always been that socialism is slavery, because it is. And one of the ways I know that socialism is slavery is that all you have to do is look at it from a rich person's perspective. Actually, let's not even take let's take class out of it. Let's do it by race. Let's say black people paid or responsible for paying 46% of the taxes in New York, and Zohran Mamdani is telling you, hey, you ain't paid enough, you gotta pay more. How would those black people feel in New York? They'll be like, this greedy guy, this greedy. Do you expect black people to stay in New York if they knew Zohran Mamdani was gonna sit here and try to tax them more when he has no proven track record of working? We all see the historical evidence of socialism. Even in the clip, the segment I just showed you, when he was talking about taking guns off the street and all that stuff, that won't change violent crime. All you're gonna replace is the gun crime for knife crime, for vehicle assault. Violent people will find their way. And what are you going to do? Now you're going to take knives off the streets? Look at the UK. All you have to do is look at these policies. They've been tried before. He's not trying something revolutionary or new. Zohran Mamdani is going to try to convince New Yorkers' top earners to stay, in part by showing them that they're asking them is pay more in taxes would increase even their quality of life. I don't think so. New Yorkers already pay a lot of taxes. 50% if you're a high income earner, you lose 50% of your money to the government, and how they mismanage it. Your subways ain't running more efficiently, right? Traffic's still out of control. They're taxing you to use the freeway into the Bronx or out of the Bronx. I forget the traffic commission, because the Democratic Party just squanders the money it gets from New Yorkers. And you saying, with all that track record, right? Of your ineffectiveness, of your governance, the outcomes of all your policies, right? The budget deficit, the budget shortfall you're in. You're telling the top income earners that contribute mostly to your coffers, oh, we're going to tax you more, but trust us, we'll increase your quality of life. And they got 20, 30, 40 years of track record of your party managing the budget that was given to them. And then they see no improvement of quality of life. You brag about rent control, but many people like me point out how rent control causes the very problem that you're trying to solve. Because developers will not waste their time building low-cost income houses because their margins are fixed. So they're focused on luxury apartments, aka catering to the rich, who's not protected by the government. And you created what? More high-priced rents. And people who do got the low rent units, they don't want to move. They'll have generations on generations of generations of family. And then when the rent is not catching up with the rate of inflation, you get slumlords where they're like, F it. It's not financially, I'm not financially incentivized to take care of the property because I'll be losing more money if I fix up the toilet when the tenant calls me. I'd rather let them deal with it. Hell, I want them to move out so I can actually charge the rent that I need to maintain this place properly. You're just going to ignore all that. And the reason why I think I'm harping on the fact that this guy never had a real job is that he don't understand how his decisions cascade throughout society in a unit, in a team, in a company, and how things work. He has all this theory and no practicality, no experience. And this is why I think he will make a bad mayor. But without further ado, enough of my ranting. I've been on a very ranting mood today. Let's hope I can nip this in the bud. He's going to have this conversation with Al Sharpton. You know, I call him Al Sharpton on this channel. And you're going to see, I hope you're going to see what I see of why he don't deserve to be mayor, even if the alternative is Andrew Cuomo. Let's get into the video.
Now, you've been running on the platform of affordability fixes for New Yorkers, like a rent freeze you mentioned, free buses, city-owned groceries that made you popular with some working New Yorkers, but not so popular with...
All those things are going to cause shortages. I'm just going to show you right there. It's going to cause shortages. They tried rent control already. Rent control doesn't work, right? You can keep trying it. It doesn't work, right? I already explained it intensively before we got into this video why it doesn't work. Free busing ain't going to work. Same problem with the rent controls. You ain't going to generate enough to actually maintain the infrastructure. You're going to keep taxing people into oblivion, and you're always going to spend way more money than the money coming in. And then you're going to tax even more people. It's a self-fulfilling cycle. I joke around, and actually this is the reality of socialism. Socialism is a snake eating its own tail. Because the more you say more free stuff, the more you have to tax the individuals to keep up with the free stuff. And eventually you're going to tax at a point where there's no extra money. There's no more money you can take out of your citizens, and it's still not enough. That's why I say socialism is slavery. The purest form of socialism, the fundamental core of socialism is slavery. And who's the slaves in this context? Top income earners in New York. They'll keep extracting you, taking resources from you, taking your time, your blood, sweat, and tears, taking half of what you earn. For what? For what? Free buses that you probably not even going to really use like that. It's probably not even that good. Free grocery stores where they're going to be food shortages before you know it. The store is always going to be empty. Business is going to kick out other private owned businesses, and you're going to have no variety. Come on, recognize the trade-offs, New Yorkers. I don't care if you vote for another Democrat like Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams. I don't care. I don't care if you vote for a Republican. I'm not even telling you to vote for a Republican. I'm just telling you not to vote for this guy. This guy who's trying to make his first job mayor. Yeah, that guy. Guy with no practical experience. Learning how to work in an environment where his decisions actually will have consequences. But I digress. Y'all talking about y'all don't want people with silver spoon in their mouth, and look at the guy. #1 candidate for white progressives. I wonder why. Maybe he's relatable. Let's get into the video.
With real estate developers and the financial class, you were the only mayoral candidate to march alongside Martin Luther King III and I on our march on Wall Street about DEI on last week as we call for economic justice for all New Yorkers and all Americans. But right now, the top 1% earners in the city pay 40% of the city's income taxes, according to the Empire Center for Public Policy. How do you bring these wealthy residents to the table as mayor? Stop them from saying they're leaving, going to Florida, because we need that tax revenue to pay for some of the things.
Exactly, like slaves. We need these slaves' labor to pick our cotton, to farm our lands. We need the 1%, right? 1% of the population who's responsible for funding 46% of our revenue. We need them to stay in this city so we can continue extracting resources from them. What they're going to get out of it, right? See, this is what my politics are about, because I recognize humans, we're social creatures. Human nature tells us this. We're social creatures. There's no us versus them. We can be tribal all we want, but we're interconnected. The rich need the poor need the rich. You hurt the rich, it's going to hurt you back. You hurt the poor, it's going to hurt you back. And the fact that they're not trying to create a circumstance where we all can benefit, win-win situations. Socialists cannot create win-win situations because socialists only understand forcing people to do something. And then they wonder why people revolutionary against them. You wonder why Karl Marx says socialism is only a transition period to communism. Because the wrong people are going to revolutionary against your system and they're going to make it even worse. And that's how I see Zohran Mamdani. He's the revolutionary force that's going to make it worse. Not understanding the trade-offs that he's making here. He lives in this imaginary world where things will always go his way. No, it won't. It makes no logical sense. I'm part of a group that pays 46% of the taxes, and your solution is demonizing me. That's a very smart thing to do. Like, ridiculous. And they're the people with the income who can live anywhere. They can live anywhere. I'm gonna just give me 20 seconds. And this is why the rich have such disproportional influence on our politics. Because this is true across any city in America. How in the country? Oh, you don't do what I say. Europe looking nice over there. Sweden looking nice over there. Denmark looking nice over there. Here's what I want you to do. And you wonder why they have so much control over our politics. When you're 1% of the population, but you fund 46% of our government, you don't think that's going to come with some power and influence? And this is why I said the progressive tax bracket is a stupid idea. You're essentially giving more power to the rich and powerful in our society. Just give us a flat tax. Yes, they still contribute more, but at least it's more disproportionate. At least the source of the funding is more spread out. But when you do this progressive tax crap, you wonder why there's loopholes for the rich. You wonder why. God forbid the rich leave. That's every politician's worst nightmare. Can wreck your budget like this. But you want to antagonize them. For show. And this is why I call him a snake oil salesman. He know damn well he can't do nothing to these 1%ers, to the finance bros, to the real estate developers that live in New York. But I digress.
You're talking about. How do you pay for it if they're gone?
Well, the first thing I have to say is I was proud to be the only candidate for mayor at that march. And I was proud because some of the chants at that march, they were asking, is the dream alive?
Right.
Is Dr. King's dream still alive? And he asked the question decades ago, what good is having the right to sit at a lunch counter if you can't afford to buy a hamburger?
Right.
That's a question that New Yorkers are still wrestling with today in 2025. And so what I have put forward is a vision to make the most expensive city in the United States of America affordable. At a time when we have the wealthiest city, it is also one where 1 in 4 are living in poverty. And to your point, we have a number of New Yorkers who are doing quite well. The top 1% of New York City earns $1 million or more a year. And my vision is not one where they leave, it is one where they stay. It is
How do you get them to stay?
In part by showing them that asking them to pay more in taxes would increase even their quality of life.
Look. I won't consider myself rich, but I want to be rich one day. And one of the things that I look for, I don't care what something costs. I care about what I get out of that. And I do a trade-off. Okay. I pay this amount. Do I perceive what you're giving me valuable enough to do that? He's not giving a value proposition. It's almost like emotional blackmail. He's trying to emotionally blackmail these people to be taken advantage of. He's relying on the liberal sensibilities because he knows liberals. Liberals have, I always joke, I talk about this all the time on my channel, suicidal empathy. They'll do things at the expense of what's in their best interest, what's in their family's best interest for some greater goal that they perceive. And this is what he's trying to play into. But in that, that is this enablement that these liberals in New York allow people like Mamdani to continue taking advantage of them, is that eventually they ain't going to have nothing left to give. There's not going to be enough left to give. And all you're going to see is still mismanagement, still budget shortfalls, and the city crumbles because you gave all you can. You have nothing left. The road to hell was paved with good intentions, and this is socialism. Snake eating its own tail. Eventually, there'll be nothing left of you. And when they're done using them, they'll go down to the middle class. And when they're done with the middle class, all the system goes kaboom. You can't pay for nothing. And then you're going to go to the federal government and have the rest of the nation bail out your little city. Because he ran your budget out the wazoo trying to chase a fantasy. Trying to chase his imagination. Hey, New York, you do what you want. But don't say you was not warned. because we got history. We got so much historical evidence showing the pattern of destruction that's going to arise if you follow this socialist path. But you guys love the dream. You love the fantasy. If you only imagine. That's what you love. But at what cost? You pretend that there's no cost, or you can mitigate the cost, but there's a cost. There's a cost for everything you do. There's a cost to free. I digress.
Life. Because when you ask New Yorkers, what is it that is making them feel uneasy in this city? You often hear from them about the cleanliness of our city, the safety of our city, the affordability of our city. We are not asking to raise these taxes for the sake of it.
We're doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result is insanity, guys. Democrats been ruling that city for decades on decades on decades. And y'all say, yeah, let's stay with the same party to fix the same problem that they got us in. This is not true accountability. And I know they see Zohran as some type of accountability to the establishment, but he's going to make things worse. Hey, New York, your city, your problem, I guess.
We're asking so that we can actually make the slowest buses in the country fast and free, so that we can actually create a Department of Community Safety that would deploy dedicated teams of mental health outreach workers to the top 100 stations of the highest levels of mental health crises and homelessness. That relationship proving that tax dollar leads to that investment, because we know that it's not just a fiscal policy that takes somebody from New York City to somewhere else. Because a lot of New Yorkers, if they leave, they go to California, another high-tax state. They go to New Jersey, another high-tax state. Many people say they might go to Florida, but I have seen and heard from many New Yorkers concern about this new elimination of vaccine mandates in Florida that makes them question whether they would ever want to live there.
Yeah. The government doesn't baby me and tells me what to do, so I'm scared. Like, no, make your own decisions. As a Floridian, hey, I make my own decisions. And I live with the consequences of that. It seems like a lot of people who come from these left, heavily regulated cities, they don't know how to deal with freedom. That's what I noticed. You know, I'm from Florida. You know, I lived in a new construction community, had a bunch of New Yorkers in there. And they were surprised. They're like, oh, my God, everything's so expensive here. But you keep more of your money in your pocket, right? Oh, I used to get this for free. Well, you're not in New York anymore. You're in Florida. You pay for that now. But you get to choose. Instead of someone giving you, here, have this. Oh, it's free. No, it's not free. It was subsidized by everyone else so you can get it free. It don't work like that in Florida. You keep more, but you have to use it. You use it more on your discretion. And that's why I notice a lot of these people. It goes back to this philosophical thing about politics. They say that some political thinkers believe that people truly do not want freedom. They want someone who rules them, so that way they have someone to blame when things don't go right. When you have freedom and things don't go right, you can only blame yourself. And I'm starting to think that every day when I see New Yorkers, when I hear Zohran Mamdani talking about how somebody who moved to New York regret going to Florida because they moved vaccine mandates. So you're mad that someone's not forcing you to do something. So you're scared to make decisions on your own? That's what I'm hearing. Vaccine mandate gets removed from Florida. Okay, you can still get your kid vaccinated based on your own discretion. Oh, I don't want to decide. Because they don't want to be held responsible, it seems like. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. But this is just something I was thinking in my head. Like, do people truly want freedom? Or they want to be ruled by somebody so that way they can have someone to blame? Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. I'll be interested to hear what you guys say. I'm interested to hear what you guys think of Zohran Mamdani. And do you think he'll actually make a good mayor? Or you agree with me that you think he's going to be another disaster like Brandon Johnson? Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.